Number two. So this is my number two reason why I think that Kyle and Mauricio are secretly back together or about to be back together and are going to do some big reveal about the reconciliation. So number two, Kyle Richards, again, is changing her tune. Now she is saying she can't imagine her life without Mauricio Umansky. It's painful and scary. This is very different than what she was saying on, last night's episode or the episode before that, where she basically was talking about she doesn't want to be around people who don't appreciate her. Once Portia leaves the house, she's ready to dip and be out and go out into nature, what her plans were. She wasn't talking about a future with Mauricio. She was talking about her very own future on her own. So now that's kind of changed her tune with that, okay? Now there's an article in page 6 that we'll go through, and then she also talked about this on Jeff Lewis Live. So let's watch what she said on Jeff Lewis Live, and then we can also get into a little bit of the article to break it down, okay? So here we go.
So I'll tell you right now where we're at. We're all in therapy now, which, it makes it easier for me because also Mo did not want to say. So I was in a weird position. I'm not going to say, too bad, I'm on a reality show. He's not signed up for the show.
I see.
He didn't even want to when it came out that we were having a problem. And I put that post on our Instagram. Mm-hmm. He didn't want me to say that we're having a problem. And even my daughter said, you can't do that. It's obvious. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot psychologically. We've been together. I've been married almost my entire adult life. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know what life is without being with Mauricio.
Yeah.
It's hard and it's painful and it's scary. And I'm having to answer to these women who I don't know anything about their person. I have no idea what they do when they're not on camera. I have no clue, but they want to know what's happening in my bedroom.
Not fair.
It's not fair. And I've said, but we live together in the same house in different bedrooms.
Is there another home too that he will go to? Like an apartment?
We fortunately are in the position where we have other homes.
Yeah.
And
so he can go to the other home. You can go to the other home.
Yeah, but we don't really. He spent a lot of time in Aspen recently while I was here. And then I went there for 2 weeks with our daughters. And, if you didn't know us, you would think everything was normal because, I'm making dinner, we're together, but we're in different rooms, and I have my house in La Quinta. But no, we're not, it's not like you go here, I go there.
But it's possible that the relation.
Oops. Okay, let's break that down real quick. So what she just said, and then we can watch more. So all of a sudden now it's scary and it's painful to imagine her life without Mauricio. However, before on the last few episodes, she's almost excited about her life post Mauricio. She's looking forward to it, what she's going to do. She also just said that the other women, she doesn't know what's going on in their life when they're not filming. Kyle, you're unhinged at this point. Pretend like you're on a reality show that's supposed to be based on reality. Pretend, because you forgot. You basically just said, I don't know these hoes and these hoes don't know me. Stop asking about my life because I don't know you. That's basically what you just said about these women who you're supposed to be on this reality shows and you're supposed to be friends with. So I guess you don't know Dorit. I guess you don't know Sutton. I guess you don't know Crystal Garcelle. We already know you don't know Anna Marie. That's okay. But you pretended like you did. You pretended like Anna Marie was your friend. You brought on the show. You and Dorit have been really good friends. And you and Erica have been really good friends. And Sutton, too. Sutton's known your family and Kathy Hilton for years. So stop it. Also, Kyle, you have asked all of these women, and I'm talking about for the entire series, you've asked them about Munchausen disease, about fraud, about Denise allegedly hooking up with Brandy. You exposed your sister being an alcoholic. You have really gone in. You talked about Camille and her relationship with Kelsey. It goes on and on and on and on and on. The list goes on and on. You've done this to all of the women. We have to be honest. We have to tell the truth. You've been a producer on the show. You've stirred the pot. You've exposed people. You've asked people to talk about their lives. But the moment they say, hey, Kyle, what's going on in your marriage? Because things look really weird right now. All of a sudden, it's not fair. All of a sudden, I don't know these hoes. All of a sudden, they're coming for you. Doesn't make any sense. And you literally just said, I don't know these people when we're not filming. So don't ask me about my personal life. Well, then, Kyle, that is why I think it's time for you to get off the show, because you're not even pretending anymore. You do know that Jeff Lewis is being recorded, and you do know that is a media show. And you literally just said, I don't know these hoes and they don't know me. Mind your business. That's literally what you just said. And you've been on a reality show called The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills for the last 13 seasons. It's time for you to go. It's a wrap. Not that I have anything against Kyle, because I don't have anything against her. I just think in general, it comes a time where on these reality shows, whether it's Housewives or any reality show that really follows a particular life storyline, usually the OGs or people who've been on for too long, it gets to the point where they just become bitter and resentful. And to me, Kyle, she sounded very resentful, and she sounded very bitter. It's giving Nene vibes. It's giving Vicky Gunvalson vibes. It's giving Ramona Singer. It's giving like it might be time for a pause. It might be time for a reset. It might be time for you to do something else. Because I think that on these shows, it is a shelf life where they do hit a point where they don't have anywhere else to go. And then when people actually start to question them, they get defensive, they get combative, they become hypocritical, and they get very bitter. And for her to be on the show being like, I don't know these chicks, keep my name out your mouth, well, then maybe you shouldn't be on a show that's supposed to be about real friendships. And then you also expect these women to be loyal to you. You always talk about loyalty and loyalty and loyal to you, but yet you just said, I don't know these hoes. But yet you expect them to be loyal to you when they're doing a job. Because the job is Real Housewives. That's the job. And you've done your job, Kyle. You've done your job. You've been on there pot stirring, doing all the stuff, going after people. But when the spotlight's on you, all of a sudden it's wrong. And be honest about the real reason why you and Mauricio are still living in the same house. I think the initial reason why you and Mauricio stayed in the same home isn't because you guys are so amicable. I think it's because nobody wanted to desert the marital home. Sure, you may have other properties, but the house you're living in is your core marital home. The other properties are your shared assets. Real estate and property is an asset, but your marital home is your marital home. The reason why neither of you are leaving the home is because neither of you want to say that you abandoned it. Because if you leave the marital home, then if say you guys actually ever really did get divorced, which I don't think is actually going to happen, then the other person can say, well, you abandoned the home, you forfeited your rights to the home. That's why we have Tom Sandoval and Ariana Maddox, who weren't even married, but just bought the house together. Neither one of them would leave the house because once you leave, you can forfeit the rights. They'll say you abandoned the home. So that's the real reason why you both were staying in the house. Just be honest about it. Not because you guys were so amicable and cooking dinner together. Stop. But now I think you guys are staying in the home because you're probably going to get back together. That's my gut. You guys are going to get back together. So let's keep watching more of her show.
So I'll tell you right now where we're at. We're all in therapy now, which, it makes it easier for me because also Mo did not want to say. So I was in a weird position.
I don't know how to fast forward it.
So I'll tell you right now where we're at. We're all in therapy now.
I don't know how to fast forward it. So that'll be what we got. But yeah, you guys. Or you know what? Let's watch the whole thing and let's see if it goes.
So I'll tell you right now where we're at. We're all in therapy now, which, it makes it easier for me because also Mo did not want to say. So I was in a weird position. I'm not going to say, too bad, I'm on a reality show. He's not signed up for the show.
I see.
He didn't even want to when it came out that we were having a problem. And I put that post on our Instagram. Mm-hmm. He didn't want me to say that we're having a problem. And even my daughter said, you can't do that. It's obvious. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot psychologically. We've been together. I've been married almost my entire adult life. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know what life is without being with Mauricio.
Yeah.
It's hard and it's painful and it's scary. And I'm having to answer to these women who I don't know anything about their person. I have no idea what they do when they're not on camera. I have no clue, but they want to know what's happening in my bedroom.
Not fair.
It's not fair. Mm-hmm. And I've said, but we live together
Mhm.
in the same house in different bedrooms.
Is there another home too that he will go to? Like an
we
apartment or
fortunately are in the position where we have other homes.
yeah.
And I
So
mean,
he can
it's
go to
kinda
the other
weird to say
home,
that.
you can go to the other home.
Yeah, but we don't really. I mean, like he spent a lot of time in Aspen recently
Mhm.
while I was here. And then I went there for 2 weeks with our daughters. And, if you didn't know us, you would think everything was normal because,
Right.
I'm making dinner, we're together, but we're in different
Family.
rooms, and I have my
So-
house in La Quinta. But no, it's not like you go here, I go there.
But it's possible that the relationship is changing form. So it might just be a loving.
It has changed
Yes,
form.
and it just could be a very loving, close companionship, friendship, whatever. I want to throw something else in too, because we both have very wealthy friends. What I have found is sometimes when a wealthy couple with lots of assets and businesses, they don't actually get divorced. They live separate lives because it's complicated to divide everything. Does that ever occur to you and Mauricio? Like, if this doesn't work, do we actually get divorced and start splitting things up and try to sell businesses? I mean, that seems very complicated.
Well, that sounds very difficult. Yes. Well, that's not what my main focus is. I mean, if we're not going to be together, I would get divorced 100%. I would not live like that. Because psychologically, I would need to move on. I would never do that just for properties. We did not have a prenup. My husband did not have a penny when I married him.
Mhm.
I mean, we had to, his grandparents gave us.
You bet on him, but that was a good bet.
He was in the clothing business when I met him, making no money. And, my mom lent us money when we were first married.
Yep.
We didn't. There was one Christmas we didn't have any money for Christmas presents. My mom gave me money, and then his grandparents helped us. So we built everything together.
Yes.
And there's no prenup. I love when people say, "Oh, Kyle's just hanging." I love when I read these comments.
Yeah.
Kyle's just hanging there for his money, honey.
Yeah.
He didn't have any money when I married him, and it's our money. And let's be very clear about that. So
you would
it's
want
very clean cut. It's
Yeah.
everything is half, regardless. So that's not an issue for me. And I mean, we would probably just keep our homes. We don't fight. We're not a toxic couple. You never would see fighting in our home ever. I mean that seriously. I'm not just saying that. We were talking about this with my kids the other day, and they said we've literally never seen that. We say like getting annoyed with each other, and we're like, but never fighting. It was not about that. So it would be we just go our separate ways and maybe keep the houses.
Yeah, it's kind of, I would imagine being married so long, it's kind of your identity. It's who you were.
It's
Like you
very
said,
much.
you spent your whole adult life with this man. It's got to be really, really, really tough.
It's really tough. I do
Yeah.
feel like my entire identity is being a wife and a mom. And that's been really hard to wrap my head around, and that's what I think part of my, learning who I am without that, even though obviously no matter what, I'm a mom. I have 4 daughters and they're my best friends. But
see,
he's
they're
also my
also-
friend, and I do love him very much. That's what's also hard. If it was one of these situations, you're like, oh, I can't stand this guy. This would be so easy for me.
Of course.
It would be very
Mhm.
easy. I
It's
can
easier to
guarantee-
be angry. Yeah.
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 And I can guarantee you, I do not want to be in this position.
Mhm.
I never wanted to be in this position.
Right.
I thought I knew where I would be until the day I died. So that's a lot to process.
Your whole life got
course.
turned
My
upside
whole
down.
life. And obviously there was things that we had, kind of dealt with since the beginning of our marriage that you kind of like put aside. I was pregnant, nursing, baby, and then they'd come up again. And then you kind of get to a point where you're like, well, am I still dealing with that? And then, were there things? Yes, of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in this position I am today.
Oh, you guys, there is so much to unpack in that. But I want to say, I am WTCO. Thank you so much for the super sticker. I really super appreciate that. Thank you so, so much. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Mwah. So let's unpack a little bit about what Kyle just said in that interview. And I want to go back to this slide on my 5 theories on why I think that they are, quote, secretly reconciling now, that kind of coincide with what she said in the interview, right? So the first one was Morgan Wade's PR relationship contract is over. We already went over that. We know what that's about. So the Kyle Richards divorce storyline was a flop. That kind of bakes into what she just said on Jeff Lewis. I don't really know those women. Why are they asking me about my business and blah, 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 blah. I don't know them. Da, 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 da. I think her tune would have been very different if the women had rallied around her and coddled her the way she thought that she could skate by the way she's always skated by. But since that storyline was a flop, she all of a sudden now she's very bitter Betty. Keep my name out your mouth. Why are you asking about my husband? I don't know you, which to me was crazy. If I was anybody else on the cast, I would feel some type of way. At least pretend, Kyle. At least pretend. But I think that if she was able to get her victim narrative the way she's always gotten her victim narrative, I think her tune would be very different. Okay? Talking about the money, like I said before, there's no prenup. Everything's, quote, 50-50. Now that Mauricio and the agency, that $32 million lawsuit was dropped. So now they're no longer facing this huge potential judgment against them, which would also, just like she said, would be a judgment against her because there's no prenup. There's nothing protecting her. So she would be entitled to 50% if they divorced, but she would also be in the hot seat if he had to fork over money. So any money he forfeits over is also her money he's forfeiting over. So that could also be another reason why. Like I said before, Kyle is further along in her healing journey since losing her friend. Like she said now, she said that they are in therapy. They haven't been in therapy before. I'm not sure if she meant her and Mauricio or just her or just him. I'm not sure. But again, she said that they're in therapy where that hasn't happened before. I do think Kyle is further along in her healing journey. I think after sort of having her crisis and her meltdown and her temper tantrum and her grief, which to be honest with you, however I feel about Kyle, I do have compassion for that. Because to be honest with you, her behavior was pretty textbook. It was pretty normal of a person who went through a big life crisis, not knowing who you are, not knowing where you fit, not knowing, is this the life I was meant to have, attention seeking, acting out. And my heart does go out to her. She's not my favorite housewife, but as a human being, I do have compassion for someone who goes through a loss like that. And to be honest, her antics was pretty textbook of somebody grieving. And I think that now she's gotten further along in her grief journey. She's gotten further along in her healing. They're in therapy. I think and like she was saying in the video, it seemed like she doesn't necessarily want to divorce Mauricio. She just wants a better marriage than what she had. And those are two different things. One is I want a divorce. The second is I want a better marriage. And to me, it sounds like Kyle wants a better marriage, not an actual divorce. And then it goes back to my fifth theory I had of why now. A big reason why I don't think Mauricio didn't want to go public with the split is because, again, he didn't want any negative press to blow back and jeopardize his buying Beverly Hills Netflix deal, because that show is his baby. It's about him, family man, him, the entrepreneur. It's about the agency. It's about all of that. And the big reason why Netflix brought the show on, obviously, is because of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. They want to do so. One of the big this is a big tactic that networks do, not just networks, but really any industry. It's called borrowing an audience. So they think that if we get Mauricio on Netflix, we'll be able to get the Bravo Beverly Hills audience to convert into subscribers, right? So it's all baked in, because if it wasn't for the Beverly Hills fame, I don't think that they would randomly be like, hey, Mauricio of the agency, let's give you a Netflix show. But because they have the entire Bravo audience behind them, the Hilton audience behind them, of course, because that's a built-in audience to bring to Netflix. So I don't think Mauricio wanted to jeopardize that family man brand persona in order that could jeopardize his Netflix deal. And she was like, yeah, he didn't want us to go public with it. Well, yeah, because it could jeopardize his money and his bottom line, So there is that. So basically what she said on the Jeff Lewis Live pretty much sums up all the reasons why I'm thinking in the next 3 to 6 months, I think that Kyle and Morgan Wade is going to fade out. And I think that we're going to have a big romantic gesture from Mauricio to Kyle. And then boom, they're going to be back together, happy families. That's what I think is going to happen. And again, thank you so much. I am WTCO for the super sticker. I truly, truly appreciate that. I really do. All right. Now let's move on to my number one reason why I think Kyle and Mauricio are back together. So Kyle Richards is now sporting a Mauricio